J-Life is a program that's based in South Africa, and its main mission is basically just making disciples who then in turn make disciples, and they really have a heart for fulfilling the Great Commission. They partner with already established churches or churches that are in the process of being established with locals, and they give them biblical training and discipleship training. J-Life has been around for about 13 years, and it started in South Africa with the founder, John Abrahamse. He just kind of had a vision for pouring into people's lives individually, and just to see his heart and commitment for the Word, it was obvious that it hadn't been watered down. I was in South Africa for 6 weeks at the J-Life campus that's called Camp Eden. And every day we'd wake up and we'd have Bible studies and prayer for about an hour. Then we would have breakfast, and we would go to town every single day. And sometimes we would just be on the ranch, or the farm is what we called it, and just do chores and tasks and help out the farm hands. Sometimes we would just be in the classroom all day. First week, it was a lot of team building exercises. Second week, we did have a sports camp, and that was for high school age kids. We were their counselors along with other counselors who came in from a local church. One thing that I really enjoyed about it, it wasn't just training that can be used on the mission field. When you think of missions as overseas, you can use it on the mission field at home too in America. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It's kind of crosses over the cultural barrier.
I was kind of between school and work, kind of wondering what I would be doing the next year, and then God presented this opportunity to go and be trained in disciple making, and couldn't think of any reasons not to go, because He provides, and He provided the opportunity, He provided the means to get there. So I'd heard John, the founder, speak before, and I loved his passion for Jesus. He wasn't passionate about necessarily promoting J-Life as a program. I feel like sometimes he kind of forgets to promote the program because he's so excited about talking about Jesus. One of the aspects that I love about J-Life's format and their ministry is that they don't have a goal apart from knowing Christ and making disciples. And that's great, because that's for everybody. That's not just for the person who wants to do missions for the rest of their life, or the youth pastor, or the pastor, or whatever. That's something that if you're a professed follower of Jesus Christ, you need to know how to make disciples, and you need to know how to know Him in order to do that. I was very grateful for the way that our teachers in South Africa stressed the fact that they didn't want us to go home the same. Every day, like from the first day you got there, you were being reminded, like, what we teach you here, we want you to take home and put into practice. How I realized the trip and the teaching that I received was going to affect me the most was in my involvement with Grace Student Ministries as a life group leader. Be sitting in class, and I'd just be constantly thinking of the girls that I led back home, because it was stuff that I hadn't shared with them yet and that they needed to know. They really encouraged gathering a few people around you and really pour into them, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus had 12 core followers that He really poured into and really taught. And it was effective because then they, in turn, were very well equipped to go and do the same thing. I had 3 girls in my cabin. And the whole week they'd been kind of like, well, I don't know if we're going to try out this Jesus thing or not. And then I just talked to them and I was like, you need to make a decision if you're going to follow what this says or if you're not, because faith isn't something that you just kind of sit on the fence. And they were kind of like, oh, whoa, oh my gosh. And we prayed and we talked, and it was the very last day of camp. And after that, it was just an amazing feeling, having made those connections and actually putting into practice what we had been learning the few weeks before. The week of sports camp, I was one of 3 counselors for a cabin of 8th graders. At one point, we were having a Bible study with our girls, and at the end of it, one of them came up to me and said, hey, is there somebody that I could talk to? I need to talk to somebody about something. And I was like, I would love to talk to you if you would feel open to that. And she was kind of hesitant just because she was very afraid about what she was going to say. So we sat down and she started sharing what she was going through at home. And she was in a really bad home situation. She'd been removed from that situation, but she was struggling through how to deal with experiencing that. And so I just took a moment, prayed, and go through it with her. By the end of our conversation, she was like completely changed. She was not nervous or anxious about anything. She hadn't made a commitment to Christ yet, but she understood him better. And then an hour later, I found out she accepted Christ.
For someone who is more afraid or more hesitant on going, you have an amazing support system that's going to be there, going to be around you, and praying for you the whole time. And it does make a difference.
God changes us when we put ourselves in situations where it's sink or swim. I think taking trips like this, literally taking yourself out of your life and putting yourself somewhere else where you're not sure how to live, is probably one of the best ways to learn to trust God. God uses you when you start to seek him, and this is, I think, a really good and practical way to say, I'm seeking after God.
I want to invite you to come and do an internship in South Africa. We offer a 6-week-long internship that will give you some training, some ministry opportunity among young people and orphans, and then we'll also give you a little bit of a feel of South Africa and just our history and the huge diversity, some of our wildlife. You will love this opportunity. We would invite you to come and spend 6 weeks with us. 6 weeks that we will equip you to be a disciple maker, so that when you return back home, that you will have an influence on your community, an influence on your school, an influence on your family. Come and join us. Love to have you in South Africa.